Well, jeepers! You're listening to Smash or Pass.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another interview on the JayBee and Millie channel. I am JayBee, and joining me as always is Rhianna.
Hello.
We have special guest collaborator Mark Marsh.
Hello.
And our very special guest that we're going to be talking to and interviewing today is the incredible Jesse Leon McCann. How are you doing today?
Good. How is everybody?
Oh, absolutely fantastic. And we were just admiring beforehand your amazing background. It's just so iconic, from things to the big Scooby, the Minions, and all the comics. And it's just incredible. So thank you so much for joining us.
Sure. I don't know how many of them back there you can see that are mine.
I can see your recent Scooby collection in the
yes.
background, which is awesome. We're going to touch upon that. Oh, lovely. 5-minute stories.
Yep. And then this is also recent, Krypto the Super Dog. 6-issue compilation of the series I wrote for DC with my lovely wife, Nancy.
Oh, that is just so incredible. And I guess to go all the way back to your career, what started your love of writing and I suppose reading in general?
Well, I've always read. I learned so much as a kid. I just was very voracious when it came to reading. I was always reading something. And I started reading comics in '66 when the Batman TV show came out. I discovered comics, and that was it. That was the end. You know, I've been doing it ever since. But I started in the career by working locally, like a few blocks from where I lived, at a distributor, Diamond Comics. I don't know if you've heard of Diamond Comics, but they're the biggest comic distributor in the world. And I worked for them for 8 years. I met a lot of people, and I would do like a funny little newsletter each week. I do little cartoons and try to be, funny. And one day, one of my customers came in and asked me to come write for him because he was going to start publishing his own comic. And the name of the store was Cult Comics, and the name of the company was Cult Press. And we I became the editor of the comics, and we lasted a few years. Like I don't know how many, maybe 4 years. And then he was graduating UCLA at the time, and he said, "Yeah, I got to go out and get a regular job." And the first job he got was as an assistant editor at DC Comics for Warner Brothers. So he called me up one day and he said, "I really need help. Would you like to write for me?" And I said, "Sure. What do you want me to write?" And he said, "Have you heard of Pinky and the Brain?" I said, "Sure. Pinky and the Brain. I need you to write Pinky and the Brain." So I did. And I did that for a few years. And of course, all the customers, like my wife, knew me because I was our customer service when I was working for Diamond. They kept asking me, "You want to come do a signing, Pinky the Brain?" Sure, I'd come. And they'd also ask another local guy whose name is Bill Morrison. And he was the editor-in-chief of Mongo Comics. And so they kind of paired Pinky and the Brain with Simpsons. And then one day, one of them says, "How come you don't work for him?" And I looked at him and said, "Why don't I work for you?" And he said, "Why don't you work for me?" And I was on my way with Simpsons. In the meantime, my Warner Brothers fellow, Robert, he said, "Do you know anything about Scooby Doo?" And I go, "Sure." He goes, "I need you to write a Scooby Doo comic book." I go, "Okay." And then it turned into a coloring book. So my first Scooby was actually a coloring book. Can you get my? Yeah, you guys would freak out if you were here. I mean, we got a cabinet filled with statues. We got posters. We got anime. We got. When we say unlimited, we mean unlimited.
Yeah, I could only imagine just like running around to every aisle. Like I have like a very short like attention span, but I'd just be like darting around all of it.
That's what people with like who have conditions like that. They're on the spectrum. They go, "I don't know where to look. I'm lost."
You can spend a few hours just trying to look for something to focus on.
Oh yeah, just like days. That's up a tent.
Especially in the anime section, because that could just go on for days. once you find the series you want to get into.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I could move this just to kind of give you an idea.
Oh my god.
I don't know what you'll be able to see.
I want to come visit and just spend a whole week and camp out there, because I can already see like 10 different things that I want.
You'll need
like,
longer than a week.
person.
We'd be like reps of like a UK branch. That would be cool. That would be like
Yep.
dream.
Very careful.
And you got the Godzilla set at the back.
We have a friend that's a Godzilla nut, so we try to keep him in stock. So we got all
That's
the
been
Godzilla
made so many
squeezies and
times.
things. I'm sorry.
Godzilla's been made so many times in movies.
Yep.
It's probably the most rebooted series I've seen in a long time.
You know, my wife and I went to the drive-in. We actually have a drive-in here. We didn't have one anymore in LA because, you know, land is so expensive. So they just closed them all down and made buildings there. But they have one here because we live in the country here in Tennessee. And so we went and saw Godzilla versus King Kong. And it was terrible. The last one, just terrible. Sorry if anybody's watching that was part of that. I'm sorry. It just was. We saw in the opening, we saw a movie called Rampage with The Rock. And that was a great movie. And they even had like a King Kong character in there that fought a lizard character in there. So that kind of, to me, is the real Godzilla versus King Kong movie of recent years. So I thought it was quite good. So it's just funny how some people, they just can't handle making a movie these days, and yet it comes out. You know?
I think it comes down to whoever's directing it.
Yeah, and who writes it, of course. I have to go off the script. Anyway, let me get back to Scooby Doo for a second. So what I did, and by the way, it's called Scooby Doo, Where on Mars Are You? And at the time, the Mars rover had just landed, and it's tooling around, and somebody one of the scientists goes, "Gee, that rock looks like Scooby Doo," and they panned up, and it did. It looked like his profile, and so they named it Scooby Doo. And so they wanted to kind of cash in on that a little bit with this coloring book. And what I did is I just made it a story. You know, each page is a different story. So it's kind of like writing a comic book, but instead of panels, each page is one panel. And I think it turned out pretty good. And my editor, Randy Riesfeld at Warner Brothers, said, how would you like to write some more books for me? And I said, sure. And so I had a 10-year acquaintance with them. And I wrote everything from Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. I wrote several books of that. Any Scooby Doo that came out. And what else did I write for them, honey? Warner Brothers. She doesn't know either. It's hard to remember them all.
You did the How to Draw Scooby Doo book.
And also
that was a good one.
Oh,
and
there's this
also
one that
they
we've got.
threw,
I don't know.
Oh,
I
yeah.
sent this
those
one.
are called Teachers' Pets.
Yeah.
And you have a real interesting one in your hand, the Scooby Doo one, because there's one page. I got to tell you about this one page. It talks about Fred. It talks about each character,
Yeah.
but it talks about Fred. See if you can find that page. Now, one of the things, now they have for each character at Warner Brothers, that's the one. Keep that page up. See that phone number there? His phone number is 1-800 I am curious.
Yeah.
Okay, that came right out of the Bible. Each character has a Bible, and so they give you, Batman has a Bible, Superman has a Bible, Scooby Doo has a Bible, and that came right out of it. Oh, that's Fred's number. Well, some kid calls Fred's number, and he gets a gay hotline.
Oh,
I am curious. And my editor called me, and she was raging mad. She said, "Where'd you get that number?" I said, "From the Bible." Oh, okay, never mind. So you always have to kind of watch yourself. I had angry customers when I worked for Diamond, so I knew how to handle angry customers with Scooby Doo. Do you remember a book I wrote? I think it was Opera Ogre. Scooby Doo and the Opera Ogre.
Oh, I think I've got that. I think I left it upstairs though.
I think that was
Okay,
one of
well-
the flat ones, wasn't it? They were kind of like, was that one
Yeah.
of the Scholastic ones?
Maybe.
I think it may have been.
I think they kind of like all blended together in my mind.
Yeah.
I don't really know. But anyway, I had a lady that's just furious. She wrote a letter because in one page, it looked like the gang had run into the fire. After escaping the fire, they ran into the fire. And it wasn't that at all. It's just how the artwork was drawn kind of made her think that. And I go, no, they're not in. They didn't run in. They ran out and they're standing on the ledge and they're going to climb down. Oh, okay, she says. First of all, she's shocked that I called her. Yeah, you wrote a letter to. I'm the writer. Here, yell at me. And then I let her say her say, and then I told her, no, that's not what's happening. You see, they're on the ledge there. They're trying to escape the fire. But, you got to watch out for little kids. And sometimes things happen. You just don't have control of. In fact, the control of the artwork is one of the best thing you can learn as a writer is how to control the artist. And the only way you can control the artist is by being very specific. Now, if you read some things that talk about Alan Moore when he wrote comics like The Watchmen, he would write a whole page just for one panel, but he was being very specific, right? So I tried to take that into consideration. I didn't write a whole page, but I tried to be real thorough. And then they handed me off. In 1960, Walt Disney went down to Argentina and opened up animation studios and taught a lot of young men who were artists about the animation business. And to this day, Argentina has a lot of artists who do artwork for American stuff because they have their own characters down there that they do it for, and they do a lot of stuff for us. So my artists all the way through Pinky and the Brain, all the way through Scooby Doo were Duendes de Sol, which I don't know what that means, something of the sun, but it's an artistic group. And Walter Carzon was my artist at Pinky and the Brain, and he did do some of my Scooby Doos as well. And you have to be really careful how you describe things because English is their second language, right? Like once I talked about Pinky and the Brain getting on the back of this dragonfly, and they rode this dragonfly through one thing and another. And when it came out, it was a flying dragon, not a dragonfly. So, and I had to say, no, you're gonna have to redo this because I'm talking about a dragonfly. And I looked up what dragonfly is in Spanish. I learned some Spanish myself. And I met with Walter and he said, why you have this one frame where they go bing and they go bang and they boom? They're in like 5 different places in one picture. And I said, you got it. That's right. Just what you said. Bing, bang, boom, boom. And he laughed and he said, okay. And so we both learned something. We're still good friends. It was a great experience doing Pinky and the Brain. It was a great experience doing Simpsons. All those people are great. And I did a lot of Simpsons. Like any trivia game that you see that came out from Bongo Comics and those guys, it was by me, all these trivia questions, trivia. And then people always try to ask me trivia questions and I look at it, I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know. How should I know? I can only remember, I'm old man. So what else you want to know?
Oh, yeah. I got a question. So when you were growing up, were there any like authors that, inspired you, that gave you influence on your work?
Ray Bradbury, definitely. He really sparked my imagination, made me see what a story can actually be. The very first Ray Bradbury story that was actually read to me by one of my teachers was the one where the little baby in the crib gets up and has a knife in its hand at the end and it's going to go kill its parents. And it's like, it was a fabulous story and really sparked my imagination. So I started reading everything in Ray Bradbury I could get my hands on. And then that turned to all the other science fiction writers that I could, you know, Michael Moorcock. I ended up reading everything by him. I think that's something that just kind of scratching the surface of now is what Michael Moorcock used to write about with the multiverses and things. Now everybody's doing it, but back then
it's like
it was
an endless
him.
theory of multiverses.
Elric. Yeah.
Oh wow. Science fiction is one of my favorite genres, and I'm very much the same. When I find like a book that really piques my interest, I'll read everything that author has ever written. And I'm still trying to work through like Christy Lacey's whole, like all of his books. He's written everything. Books are so captivating, and you yourself have written a lot of comic books during your career. Many I have and still trying to get hold of, actually. So are there any comic runs or any particular issues that you loved as a child or that you've read recently?
Runs of comic books or okay. I loved Marvel when I was a kid. I started out with DC, but then I discovered Marvel, and I thought Marvel was more, it related to me more. Spider-Man related to me, you know, having some troubles at school, you know, or the kind of things that I had problems with. And I loved the whole Skrull versus Kree war, that whole run. And so I was very pleased to see them being made into a pretty good series of movies still. And the TV shows too, because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. covers the Skrull Kree war too. And so that would be my answer. Anything that had to do with that war, which was a lot of different things. And that's where Captain Marvel came out of that. So, and I liked the new Captain Marvel movie, but unfortunately, I had a stroke a few years ago, and I forget things now, you know. And it's like it's kind of like cool because you can get away with it. You go, I forgot. Sorry, I forgot. Like if I had forgotten today, I'd just say, it was the stroke that did it. But my wife and I went to see Captain Marvel, the new Captain Marvel movie, and I said, no, we didn't go see that. And she said, we certainly did. And I said, I don't remember any of it. So I sat down and I watched it again. And it was like watching it for the first time. You know, my short-term memory is shot. My wife thinks that I'll probably, because I'm retired now from writing, she thinks I might have trouble writing if I were to write again. But I wonder. Because sometimes, you know, those kind of things are what tether you to like what's going on right here and now. You have to stay with that. And I mean, when I write a story, I am like into it. I am really into it. I delve deep. I love doing research for stories, and it's my favorite part of writing. And I think I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it, honey. She says, okay. Whatever you say.
I mean, your memory, like, you know, for all you said, it might be declining somewhat. Like, I always applaud it when, you know, I speak to people like you, because I have trouble personally, like, remembering what happened last week. And so to be able to ask you questions about books that I, you know, read from you at like 6 years old, and you can like recount the different like issues and the stories, like that's just absolutely incredible. And it'd be amazing to see you kind of take up writing again. And like some of the books that I've seen, I think it may have been on Facebook that you were involved with, was the Looney Tunes books and Ralph Wiggum. And for books like that, would it often be like, I mean, how did you get into writing, say, for example, Looney Tunes? Was that part of the Warner Brothers?
Yeah, that was part of the Warner Brothers. So Scooby Doo turned into Looney Tunes for me. And my very first actual professional comic book was a Looney Tunes comic, a story called The Ice Cream Man Cometh. And on the cover, it's easy to find. On the cover, it's got Hello Nurse, a great Hello Nurse picture on blue. And we haven't talked at all about Chaos Comics yet. Do you guys get Chaos Comics over there? Lady Death?
It rings a bell. It does ring a bell, but I couldn't like name any, or I don't even.
Well, Lady Death and Evil Ernie are the big ones for Chaos Comics. They don't exist anymore as a company, but they're called Coffin Comics now. Coffin Comics. So you might be on the lookout for them. But they hired me, and the guy who runs Chaos, Brian Polito, is the creator of Lady Death and Evil Arnie. And I was the very first person that he asked to write a Lady Death story that wasn't him. You know, he's giving his baby over to me. So, and then after that, I wrote, Evil Ernie has a smiley button on his shirt, and he's a zombie. He's raised from the dead, but the button came to life and is possessed, and it's the psychotic button, like smiley, psychotic button. And so I wrote a few of those books about just the button, and we were trying to get into the animation business with that, but the company kind of folded. ICP? Oh yes. My big claim to fame, though, with Chaos Comics is the Insane Clown Posse comics I wrote. Do you know the Insane Clown Posse over there?
Gosh, I'm not sure how far the reach was with the UK stuff. I think for the most part, our comics were, like you say, you know, Marvel, DC, perhaps even Black Horse comics. We've got a few of those over here.
It wasn't as big over here as it is in
well,
America.
wrestling probably isn't as big over there as it is here, right?
I mean, wrestling for me.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
I'm a huge wrestling fan, and I collect all the.
I used to love the Attitude Era.
Do you? Well, that's where ICP came out of. They were rappers dressed as clowns, and they got into the wrestling thing a little bit, but they're mostly rappers. I had lunch with Mankind one time because they did a Mankind comic. And I just thought, she knows.
Rhianna, I was just looking.
And he had his sock on. He had his sock on.
Yes, Mr. Socko. Yes. Oh gosh, that's so cool.
He was a great guy. He's a really nice guy. All those guys, they're big, and I know I'm pretty big myself. I'm 6 foot, and I've always been big, you know, and they're super nice because they scare people, you know, if they come too close.
Part of their role.
I actually know that
Pretty big of me.
Mankind, he's gone on to write a whole load of children's books as well.
Yeah. I think that's awfully nice. That's cool. He used his fame and fortune to move off to some. And I'll bet you anything he's got kids, because that's one thing I haven't mentioned, is the whole time I was writing Pinky and the Brain and Scooby Doo, I'd say my kids were growing up. And I'll tell you about my kids in a minute, but they're growing up. They were like 8, 10, then 10, 12 in that age group. And so I'd say, okay, Homer says this to Bart. Is that funny? Do you think that's funny? No, Dad, that's not funny. Okay, well, then I'll try again. Or Pinky does this to Brain. Is that funny? Yeah, that's funny, Dad. Use that. You know, I have my old rooting committee beside me. And now my daughter has gone on to fame and fortune on Netflix. She's an executive producer, and executive in charge of the talent of the animation things they do. She started out doing the Ricky Gervais comic or cartoon. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I love that. Based on all their podcasts, and it was kind of like in Hanna-Barbera style, like
right. He looked like Fred Flintstone.
Oh wow, yeah. Oh my god.
My daughter, you'll see Amanda McCann in the credits, and then she went from there to Hasbro for a while. She wasn't really happy there, but the most recent thing that you might have seen that she did is Battle Kitty on Netflix. And also recently, like a few years ago, she did, what was that one? Sanjay and Craig for Nickelodeon. it's a kid with
I
his
forgot
pet.
about Nickelodeon.
Yeah, it's this kid with his pet snake. It's a great show. I thought it was really funny. So, and she works with some good people like Tony, the guy who was one of the brothers. See, this is the hardest part for me, is remembering names of things. But she met a lot of good people doing that. She's used that. So that apple didn't fall far from the tree, right? Yeah. She knew what she was talking about when she got into the animation business, just because dealing with what I dealt with. I mean, I was real close to my kids. My son has gone on to be what now, honey?
He's in charge of a phone app for online retailing.
Okay, he's in charge of a phone app for online retailing. I don't know what that means, but he's done a couple other things that have to do with video games, like what is it? What the Titan thing? Titan Falls. Is that what it was? Titanfall, and other video games. His secret is he learned how to write code. So he goes in, and if there's like a game going and maybe a guy walks along and he walks into a wall and he just keeps walking into the wall, it's like, well, that's not supposed to happen. So we'll go in, he'll find it. They call it bugs, I guess. And he knows how to fix it. He debugs it, he fixes it. Man, that makes him a very valuable person. Now he did that on his own. I mean, I did not suggest it to him at all to do, but he does a good job. But he got that through the editor guy that started me in comics and then gave me Pinky and the Brain. Hired him one day for a company he was working for, and that's where he went. He went through that. So it's a good lesson for people with kids, to keep them close so that they can learn what you know.
Yeah, it's amazing how like the talents kind of run in the family and how they've all gone off to do incredible things. And I can only imagine how like much of a wholesome experience it would have been to almost use them as like a sounding board on
that's what I did, yeah.
on what's funny or what's not funny. But in terms of like when writing for things that were pre-established, such as The Simpsons and Pinky and the Brain, was it often that you went into those projects with a pre-established understanding of what The Simpsons and Pinky and the Brain were, or did you have to go back and almost familiarize yourself with those shows, or even ask your kids about the tone of the shows?
I think with Simpsons, I was a big fan. I watched everything Simpsons, so I already knew going into it what it was all about, and I read the comics. With Pinky and the Brain, I started when my first meeting on Pinky and the Brain was before Pinky and the Brain ever appeared on TV. So I was in on the ground floor with that one. And but like other things, like my daughter loved Ace Ventura. She watched that movie over and over again. So when it came time to write Ace Ventura, I already knew it because I was a big fan of Jim Carrey, and sometimes the things write themselves, It's incredible how, oh, well, now there's got to be a guy who pulls the mask off and says, I would have gotten away with it too if it was damn kids. Meddling.
Best
damn line. Meddling kids. No damn. Got it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I feel was the case on both of those. Of course, when you go into something, there's always an editor. Sometimes the editor disagrees with you. No, I don't think Scooby would do that. Okay. Yeah. But he did it in episode such and such and such. But if you don't think he would do that, again, it's always, but that's part of the fun of writing is it's team, it's a team effort, even though if as a writer, you have the most awesome responsibility to know everything about the characters that you're writing and what you're going to have them do. And we talk about it at like playing God. We're playing God with these characters. And I remember once I was writing a Simpsons story with my friend Robert, and we went, this would be funnier if such and such happened on page 2 to get things. Oh yeah. So we just went back in time and changed things, playing God, That's how we looked at it. And so that was kind of fun in that way. it really gave me a chance to use my imagination constantly. I mean, writing is an exercise in imagination. You just constantly have to imagine things, discard things, and pull other things in. So, what else?
So when it comes over to the books and also the shows, when you've spoken to the cast and like the voice actors and that, was there any like relationship differences? Because when I speak to people that seen comics based on shows like One Punch Man, they prefer the comic over the actual show. Was there anything like that with Scooby Doo?
Do they really? Is it that good?
A lot of people prefer the One Punch Man comic because it's more, I don't know, more action. There's like,
I'll have to check that out because I love One Punch Man. I love the animated show.
But the anime, they seem to feel like it nullifies it. They cut so many stuff out.
Huh. Well, we have a whole run of it here, so I'm going to read it now.
Because I wasn't allowed comics as a kid, so I mostly seen it online with TV. So with me, it's always been I've seen the show first, then I read the comics. So I go backwards rather than watching the comics then going to the series. So when I see a show, I was like, okay, I'll base it on the show, what I'm seeing, and then I judge the comments. Like comics weren't just like show accurate, but then it's like the other way around. The books came first, then the show.
Yeah, but in our business, usually the show comes first.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they're going to do it, but I love the bit they do it all the time where the monster's like going, I'm the boss, and I kill everybody and everything. And he's just looking at him like,
the monsters I love in Scooby Doo. It's the best thing I like, especially with the older series. Like they made it so much more creepy as a kid. I loved it.
Well, that's the thing about Scooby Doo. It's safe, isn't it? Parents can embrace it because they remember from being a kid how scary yet safe it is, because it's never really a monster. It's just a man in a mask.
Did you ever get like fans who were upset they didn't really match the show's adaptation with certain, mysteries that you read?
No, never had anybody complain about that of any of my comics or books. Everybody.
I always love the traps. I feel like Fred's traps are just so crazy that I swear it's like someone makes up on the spot, because if you take actual science and physics, I swear 9 times out of 10 they wouldn't work.
And you never see them.
Especially
you never
in Mystery
see them
Incorporated. Like they went so hard on like trap Fred.
Yeah. And I see my whole thing was, Fred, why aren't you getting it on with Daphne?
That's what everyone says.
Yeah, like
why aren't you being romantic with her? You're just all you're doing is making traps and trying
he
to
tried that in Mystery Incorporated.
And he fumbled the ball.
I think the scarf is a giveaway. I don't think he really likes girls. He's curious.
Yeah. Well, we should maybe in a future series we can find that.
Maybe somebody is trying to leak some info there. No, I think Fred is wholesome, and that's all you need to know. He's a wholesome guy. If he was on the football team, he was a quarterback. If he was, on anything, if he's on student council, he was the president. He's just that guy.
He's always playing the part of the leader.
Mm-hmm.
He always.
Come on, guys, we got another mystery to solve.
But I always love how he pairs Scooby and Shaggy with the worst possible space. If there's a creepy basement, they're down there. If it's a creepy attic, they're up there.
Yeah.
If they're outside where the monster was, they're out there.
Yeah. One of my favorite.
Be scared like Shaggy and Scooby. Like, I wouldn't trust myself alone, because technically it's alone outside. Who will run at the first sight of danger.
My favorite book that I wrote in later years was the one that came with a Halloween mask. And they said, write a story about a Halloween mask. It kind of looks like the Scream mask a little bit. But
That's
all
nice.
it was Scooby got tangled up in some like kite line. And on the other end was this kite that looked kind of like a scary face. And so him and Shaggy are running all over the place, running away from the scary face, kind of looks like that face of God in that Time Bandits kind of face. just really, creepy, and they're trying to get away. And it turns out that the whole time it was just kite wire that Scooby got wrapped around his tail, and they're chasing him. It's chasing them. So it was that simple, So Fred didn't have to do anything, but he was the one that discovered what the problem was, of course. Did you guys like the Scooby movies? I thought in many ways they were great. I like the guy that played Shaggy.
The live action movies are great because I feel like Matthew played the perfect live action Shaggy. Definitely, like that's what you look for.
Mm-hmm.
When you
he is Shaggy. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, but it's always been one lore in Scooby Doo that always bothers me. That's back in Reluctant Werewolf, where Shaggy had a girlfriend, but then
Googie,
and after that, no one referenced her again. No one brought it up. It's like, was she imaginary?
Maybe he ate her. Because he eats everything. Yeah, maybe he ate it. Got hungry one day and just decided to go cannibal. And I never wrote anything about Scrappy Doo. I just didn't mention, didn't want to talk about him. Yeah,
because time when Scrappy Doo was big and then he went straight down. I think it's got annoying after a while.
I think the Simpsons even did a story about that, where they had like Homer had a dog or something, and the dog was a surfer.
Yeah,
and, it's just it's kind of like that little alien guy on the Flintstones. It just somebody came in there and said, "Oh, I'm going to take over now, and I'm going to add this," and the audience reaction is no.
Didn't sit well. It was great, new character, but then it became overused. And at that point, it's just like,
definitely.
So this catchphrase too many times.
I've been around the Simpson cast enough times to watch them do live action readings of an episode. And it's fabulous. And I really wish they would do a live action Simpsons starring the people who do the voices, because Harry Shearer looks like Principal Skinner when he's talking like Principal Skinner, and just put kind of like a bald thing on Dan Castellaneta and let him play Homer, and then put the nose on him, play Krusty. I think it would be great. I think it'd be hilarious. Then big old tall wig on Marge. It'd be great. And what's Nancy's? Is that her name? Nancy, the one that plays Bart? She's so short anyway. Just put the spiky hair on her, like a really obvious thing. I think it would be a hilarious live action. And they just do the parts, do the show.
They did do a live action with Simpsons. It was like a 3D episode where Homer falls through the
that
3D
last
portal.
part.
Yeah, he ends up in the real world. It's like
this would be even easier to do than that, because you just put these hokey things on their head, like here, just put this on Dan Castellaneta's head,
Oh,
wait, is that? I don't know the Is
Homer
that the Misty Washi Simpsons one where he's on that soapbox?
Yes. Mr.
Yeah.
Sparkle.
Mr.
Wow.
Sparkle.
Mr.
Yeah.
Sparky.
His eyes are Mr. Sparkle. He's eating a donut. Sparkles on it. Coincidence?
I love that
I
episode.
think not. Hand me Bart, will you?
Oh, Bart.
Yes, he also has Sparkle.
Oh my gosh.
Oh wow.
I think I prefer their designs to some of the Funkos.
Skateboard as well.
Yeah. He has a little coin slot, so you can.
That was a money pot.
And then these are from Kid Robot.
Bartman.
Yeah.
I know what's on my Christmas list now.
I spent so much time with my wife before we got married. I was always surrounded with this kind of stuff. So I mean, looking at this, it reminds me of the manga story I wrote on the Simpson story in the comic. I just said, why don't we do a manga? So everybody liked that idea. And I don't even remember which issue it was, but it turned out pretty good. So, when I'm surrounded with stuff like that, it makes you think. Is that a Fast and the Furious Hello Kitty?
No, this is a Fast and the Furious.
What's this? Just Hello Kitty? Oh, does she have a real race car? My wife is into racing.
Oh,
But I don't know if Hello Kitty 2002 Nissan Skyline GTR. It must
This
be a
is
real
so
car.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
I feel like
I
we
feel-
could just have we could just book like a 2-hour session and just
Oh yeah, I could
pass
do a
collections.
tour.
It's like,
Yeah,
that's
if you want, I
mad.
could do a tour.
I love that. Like,
Moving
that
around.
looks really good.
we need to like book plane tickets and
Oh,
come
yeah.
visit in person. But then
You
again,
could
I
do a
don't think
live
we leave.
podcast here. Yeah, you could do a live podcast from here.
Once you're probably in there, you just don't want to leave.
That will be the issue. You won't be able to get us to leave. But I mean, I feel like we're pretty decent company. I hope.
Well, we have a bathroom in the back and a bed that I sleep on. Yeah. Wouldn't necessarily have to leave, but you couldn't move at night after we turn on the alarm. You have to stay completely still. But you're more than welcome here. We would love to have you.
thank you.
What else can I tell you about?
So
I hope I'm not boring your
I
listener.
know when you
Oh,
make
no.
comics and books and all that, when it comes to getting the resources now, obviously you got to watch the show. Were there any that you didn't need to watch because you've already seen it?
Yeah, this definitely with the Simpsons, but sometimes they send me scripts, not very often, because they had to go through 20th Century Fox to get the scripts, and they're kind of persnickety about it. So you just watch the show, over and over. And I have a funny story about that when my wife would help me translate, the show, and she goes, he's saying something. It was in a song. He's singing something, but I can't tell what it is. So I sat down and I heard it right off the bat. I said,
It's the McRib song.
yeah, the McRib song, tastes like liberty, honey. He's saying tastes like liberty.
Like, what tastes like liver?
The
Apparently
McRib or the crusty rib, whatever.
America.
So,
Or was it like a series that you had to do, but you didn't see the show, you just went off by whatever you thought by the title?
I almost did South Park from the very
Oh.
beginning when it first started, but that didn't work out because I knew nothing about South Park. But I can pick up things pretty easily. So watching a couple of episodes of that, I was going around the house going, no, Kitty, that's my cheeky puss. No. And just getting into the voices. I actually read one of my stories to kids at the opening of the big library in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. And I guess I was doing the voices so good that all the little kids thought I was the one that did the voices. No, that's Casey Kasem that does Shaggy. Know that? I'm just good at it, I guess. I'm too much around it. So.
Oh wow, that's amazing. And I guess either through watching the show prior or from writing the books, did you ever develop a favorite member of the Scooby Gang?
Yeah, Shaggy, definitely Shaggy, because I'm an old hippie, when I was younger, I pot smoked, and I always kind of suspected Scooby and Shaggy were pot smokers. That's why they're always so hungry.
There was actually when we interviewed Kent Bader, he kind of confirmed that there was going to be a scene, but unfortunately it was removed, where outside of the mystery machine there was a sign saying was it like pot for
$5
sale?
or something.
And then that with smoke coming out of the mystery machine, and then turns out it's just them having like a barbecue inside.
And of course past the Duchy in the background.
Yeah.
Pot roast. That's what that means.
I think Shaggy's
That's
everyone's favorite, especially the way he eats so much.
Yeah.
And his sandwiches.
Oh.
Yeah. And then
I always love how they made him so big, and you would always squish him down and eat him in one bite.
Oh, the ham sandwich.
Yeah, just adds everything on there. Liver, even ice cream.
Yeah, and you see some bones still in them.
Yeah.
He doesn't matter. He's a dog. He eats that. He's a Great Dane. And I was very disappointed. I'd never seen a Great Dane face to face before, and I was kind of disappointed because he didn't look like Scooby Doo at all. But oh well.
I am growing up. I just around the corner from me, this lady used to have a Great Dane called Fergus, and we very quickly became really great friends. When I was going to school, he would like run up to me and just sit next to me. And
Did he look like Scooby Doo?
He had the coloring, but unfortunately, he didn't have the black spots. I was like,
oh, okay.
But growing up on Scooby Doo, I was just like, I'm not going to call you Fergus, you're Scooby, and you're coming with me. But I couldn't take him home, unfortunately.
No,
I really wish I could.
Yeah, I bet. I love animals too. I'm a big dog and cat fan. So on Krypto, I like this little guy. I like him the best.
Yeah.
You know him? He's what's his name? Honey, do you remember?
I'm sorry,
The little cat, super cat. Streaky, because he's got the streak on him. I loved his character. What was I going to say? That reminded me of something else. I forgot. Oh well.
There's a Krypto movie coming out in cinemas.
Oh yeah, Super Pets.
Yeah,
Super Pets. Yes, with The Rock and Kevin Hart. Mm-hmm. Yes, we used to have a poster on the door, but I guess it's removed because the movie's come out here already a couple of weeks ago. The Super Pet. Oh, is it still up there? I don't see it. Oh, I see it now. Okay. Yeah. Now, see the way they have, you can't see it, but I'm going to tell you, the way they have Krypto's face in that should be Ace's face. Ace is Batman's dog, right? And Krypto is Superman's dog. And to me, the Bat Hound looks more like the Superman face, and the Krypto face looks like the Bat Hound face. So they screwed that up already. Yeah. Yeah. You know.
I'm so glad I wasn't the only one who picked up on that, because in the back of my mind, I was thinking that, but I thought people would, yeah. So when I mentioned it, I can't remember who I mentioned it to, but they were like, no, I think you're going a bit insane. I was like, no, it's clearly that. And now I've got you to back me up, and I'm going to, like, when this is released, send this to them and be like, see.
Yep.
I was right all along.
I mean, there's even a rumor that there's going to be a new movie with Scooby teaming up with Krypto as well. That would be kind of interesting to see.
It would be, especially if it's done in that rendered in that 3D. They like to do. You haven't asked me what my favorite comic book is of all time. So I'll tell you. It was Sandman. From the get-go, I love Neil Gaiman. And
like Coraline.
I'm enjoying the show, except for the fact, do you guys get that yet over there? Sandman?
I think that's is that one of our Netflix ones?
It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm kind of disappointed because I think it's a little too woke. But Neil himself,
isn't it meant to be a horror? The Sandman.
It should be a bit of a horror, but it isn't. So they kind of like we just watch. Are you familiar with Sandman at all? The comic?
Not the comics, no.
Okay. Well, one of the earlier comics was very horrific. And we just watched the episode that covered that part. So I'm glad they're covering everything, but it wasn't very scary to me. She jumped a couple of times when somebody got killed, but it wasn't horrific like the comic was. But it's a little too woke for my taste. I just, the casting and such, I was disappointed. But Neil is actually in charge of the casting, so what are you gonna do? He likes it, so
I guess it's I guess creators' vision really. The only thing that I saw that I was a big fan of that I didn't like how they almost toned the scariness down was when they brought, I think it was It Chapter 2. That kind of didn't scare me, whereas the books didn't really. But I don't know. It's always interesting when things get adapted that way and creators are either involved or not. It's an interesting one. Definitely interesting.
Definitely. I'm glad it's out. I mean, it'll bring more people.
Creeped me
more
out.
People come in to buy it now. I imagine, and get the root source. That's what I always say. Go for the root source, and all your answers will be provided.
That's definitely true. And I guess talking a little bit more about adaptations, you wrote a variety of Scooby books from adaptations of the movies, for instance, The Cyber Chase and the original stories like Museum Madness. So would you say you had a preference in terms of the two types?
Oh, when I get everything my way from the get-go is my favorite, of course. And I try to, I wrote the adaptation to Shrek #2.
Yeah.
Yes.
The movie #2, and it was just a chapter book. There were no pictures. It was a kid's novel. And I took some artistic license that they didn't like, but they kept it in. So they couldn't have disliked it that much. I like having full control, play God with my stories, you know, and I do my best to provide them with the artwork suggestions and so forth, you know, and I know my subject matter. I knew that movie inside and out, and I had the script before the movie even came out. I knew that movie. And so there was one sequence that I was able to jump ahead and then go back instead of doing it by the book, the way the movie is, which is what they like. They like you to do that. I had that as a flashback at the beginning. And they said, well, this isn't in the movie. There's no flashback. And I go, yeah, but, you know, it makes sense, doesn't it? And I guess they left it in. So, but I remember the first draft of the first Ace Ventura book, the guy kept going, yeah, but you got to show Ace doing the little dance. He always does a little dance. And I'm going, this isn't and this is a movie guy telling me this. I go, this isn't a movie, you know, it's not a comic book, it's a novel, you know. And then I clicked into it. Oh, I typed it in. He did a little dance before he actually did, you know, that's all he wanted. He wanted that written that way. And I could agree with that. That's easy enough. Yeah, okay. So, yeah. But I do like full control of my script until I hand it off to the artist. And then they do whatever they do, you know. And then I don't have any say-so on the art. When it comes back to them. I don't even see it until it's published. So I wrote a Batman book called what was it? Time Thaw. So guess who the bad guy was? Thaw. Any guesses?
Batman villain.
Mr. Freeze was the bad guy. And they told me, okay, there's going to be spot illustrations. So, you know, pick some spot illustrations. And so one of them I picked, I told them, now, don't do this. It isn't this. It's like this. And John Byrne was the artist, I found out.
Did you add a lot of freeze puns?
Huh?
Did you add a lot of freeze puns?
No. What it was he had unthawed some things that they had found intact, like whole dinosaurs, and he brought them back to life. But I said specifically, don't make these look like T-Rexes and stuff, because that was all real popular at that time. These are like crocodile type, big crocodile lizards. And so when it came out, what did he do? He made them look like dinosaurs from Jurassic Park, you know. The thing I told them is, but it's John Byrne. What am I going to say? I can't, you know, I can't say, well, that's unacceptable because it was published, you know. It was John Byrne. So sometimes my godlike powers go astray and I don't get my way.
But I guess more on like, you know, I guess your favorites of all time, really. Do you have a favorite Scooby book that you wrote that stands out to you?
Yeah, the Valentine Book. The Valentine Book. I don't remember why it's my favorite.
Because it doesn't end like any other Scooby. It had no villain.
It had no villain. I have to read that again because I don't remember it at all.
Everybody's getting Valentines and they don't know who's sending them, and that's the mystery.
Oh, did you hear that? And it actually had those kind of punch out Valentine's in it, like you used to get when you were a little kid, but with the Scooby characters. So it was a fun book. I really loved that, and I got to reread it now because I guess the story was good too.
They did an episode on a Valentine's one,
Yeah.
but they all kept getting cards, and it ended up being evil versions of themselves.
What? They did that?
Yeah, in an episode.
I think it was What's New Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
They
when they
copied
go
me.
back to the hometown, wasn't it?
They go back to their hometown. It's the only time it's referenced in that series.
Yeah. Oh.
And they all
They
get
copied
cards.
me.
Yeah,
They
you
copied
need to
They
get in
did.
touch with them.
They're like
that's-
robot evil versions of themselves.
Well, I don't think they copied me. It's just great minds think alike.
Like Animaniacs and the
Probably draws inspiration from it.
Boston Tea Party. Remember we saw it on the episode, but you had written it in the comic
I wrote something in
about Boston Tea Party.
about the Boston Tea Party in
the comic.
what comic?
One of the Animaniacs.
Animaniacs. And then they showed up on the show. But the big one is,
But the show had to have been produced way before.
oh yeah, because the show has to be done 3 years in advance to do all the animation stuff. But there was one I wrote, and it's got a photographic cover. So if you're ever looking for a Pinky and the Brain, and they're little statues this guy made, a Pinky and the Brain, and then there's a flying saucer above him. And I wrote this after watching a movie that I really truly loved called Ed Wood. Do you ever see that movie? It's about like the worst movie ever made. It's called Plan 9 from Outer Space with Bela Lugosi, and it's a great movie. So I wanted to do a Pinky and the Brain story called Plan Brain from Outer Space. And the day it came out, the day it was, I was doing a signing, and so they had the books. I hadn't seen it yet. I was about to drive out there to do the signing, and I was watching Pinky and the Brain with my kids because a new one was on, and it was called Plan Brain from Outer Space. And I go, man, what? Well, they couldn't have copied me because they would have had to done it 3 years before I wrote it. So I don't know. It's just great minds think alike sometimes, I guess.
Yeah.
That was a real coinky dink. That was.
Coinky dink. I love that. And you mentioned like doing signings and stuff. I mean, either through signings or conventions. Have you ever had much interaction with the Scooby community, be it signing Scooby books, or I guess just hearing, the Scooby community's opinions about things?
I don't think so. Not that much. I mean, I've done signings.
Mostly moms.
Yeah, mostly moms. I've done a lot of visits to schools and listen to what the kids have to say about Scooby. But not adults. I've never been invited. Yeah, we would do PowerPoint Scooby stories, and I'd read the stories, and the picture would be up on the screen. But no feedback. I would have probably enjoyed that from adults. Yeah, specific feedback to different books. But so there is a community, is what you're saying? Do they have conventions?
Yeah, there's I guess it's more on like the Twitter side of things, or even just YouTube in general. People do stuff like that.
So when it was with Scooby Doo, a lot of people were kids when they first saw it. Now they're adults.
Oh yeah.
And with the shows now coming out, they always keep that child audience, but a lot of adults. There's more adult fans than Scooby Doo, which more people don't understand.
Mm-hmm. I believe that's because when they were kids, they enjoyed it and they knew it was safe, so that when they got to be adults, had their own kids, they would say, "Yeah, watch Scooby." With the same kind of confidence.
The atmosphere.
Yeah,
that nice soundtrack that fitted in with each scene.
Right.
Or when they used to run, it was the same background going backwards and forwards.
Mm-hmm.
They must have made that museum, and what a night for a night. It's so long.
Really?
Never seen a museum that long, that hallway.
One of my favorite Scooby books that I wrote had the little sound card going down the side. And so you push such and such button when it got to this. My favorite one was that noise they make when they run. It's kind of like bongos. Yeah. I would just go around the house pushing that button until the battery died. And my wife went crazy. But that was a fun book to write. Except, boy, that turned into a whole thing, didn't it? they wanted me to write out the codes for each one in the scripts. And I go, isn't that your job to find out what the, and they sent me everything and I figured it out and I put the coding in. So whoever was typing in the book would just write the code in and hit this button and it would make such and such noise. And Scooby would go, ruh-oh. And Shaggy, of course, would go, Zoinks. And, you know, and then
I like Audible books now because some of them now will add that background noise to make it more pumped up. Because one thing I hate, I struggle with reading, so I go Audible books most of the time to help me. So it's really nice when they add like background music and just sound effects. It mainly makes me feel my imagination I'm there when the story happens. That makes it 10 times more enjoyable.
I've been enjoying the fantasy books that they put out. As a matter of fact, Game of Thrones, I enjoyed long before the show came out in the audiobooks. I think they get some really talented people to read them and they come across really well. Yeah, Neil Gaiman reading books is fun. I thought Neil Gaiman on the Simpsons was fun on the Treehouse of Horror episode where he turned into a cat. Do you remember that one? Did you see that? What else can I help you with?
So if you had the chance to write a Scooby Doo show, would you create a basically new story or would you adapt something from one of your books or comics?
I think I would attempt to create something totally new. If I had to adapt one of my stories, I think I would adapt the Tiki story. Do you know the Tiki story? Where they're in Hawaii.
Actually, I think you adapted Aloha Scooby Doo, and then there was another Tiki story that was almost, I think it was like Tiki Nightmare with like a totem Tiki. That was
that was a brand new story.
That was amazing.
That's probably the one I would want to adapt, or just something from scratch. It really would depend on what the parameters they would give me. But I'm retired now.
Continuation story.
Yeah, I'm retired though. I'm an old man.
We get to go to Hawaii.
Yeah, we could go to Hawaii. I lived in Hawaii for a while, so they say write what you know about, and I knew about the road to Hana, and that was in the story, because if you've ever been on the road to Hana, you remember. Well, it's like I think there's like 97 curves on a cliff on the way to Hana, but when you get there, there's the 7 sacred pools, and then grass all the way up to the water. I'd never seen that before. Just you could lay out on the grass all the way up to the water. That's beautiful. I need to go back there, I think. Someday, honey, someday.
So would you be willing to come back to make more Scooby Doo books? Or is that completely out of the question?
I think my wife would probably say no, and I think I would take her advice. Or you would help me? Oh, well, if my wife would help me, I think I would say yes. So
because I know some of your stories have been put into like compilations for like the 5-minute stories.
Yes, that was definitely a compilation.
And that's quite recent, isn't it? Quite a recent.
Can you see this?
I
love this at the bottom of this first page. So whenever I sign it, I just go, looks like we have another mystery to solve. Jeepers, Jinkies.
Oh, wow.
Uh-oh.
That's perfect.
Let me see what
That's definitely one of the books that I've been trying to get hold of, but for some reason, I don't know if it's just I've got really bad luck when I've searched like on Amazon or something. Like I tried buying one off eBay, but someone else bought it just before me. So
you can go to comicsunlimited.com. We have them here.
I'm definitely going to do that.
Okay. We mail all over the world. I wrote the Rock and Roll Zombie.
That is not good information for my bank balance.
Yeah.
Jungle Jeopardy, Phantom Cowboy, Fishy Phantom. So I wrote quite a few of these. And they're kind of fun. One thing kept telling me, and I kept fighting him on, is they'd say things like, well, there's too much text. You got too much text there. Make it simpler for the little kids. And I thought, that's not fair. I always liked a lot of text when I was little, because you know, you're learning how to read, or you're getting read to by your parents. And then there's a guy who's an old friend of mine that I found out somewhat recently. Like, he was one of my son's best friends, and so he was like another son. He was always around, one of the kids around, and taking stuff out of the fridge, you know, that kind of thing. And now he's like some big shot producer / punk rock star, and his name is Matt Taff. So if you ever heard of Matt Taff. Anyway, I made in this Phantom Cowboy, I told him, oh yeah, I got this new book that came out, and originally in the Phantom Cowboy, the sheriff was named Matt Taff. I was trying to think of a name, so Matt Taff, you know, I'll just use his name. That's kind of a cool name. And I said, oh, it's coming out in book form. And he went, great. And then I looked at it, they cut his name out. I said, guess what? You're on the cutting room floor, because it's got to be a 5-minute story. So they cut out anything that would make it longer that they deemed unnecessary. Sorry, Matt. Or maybe your agent called and said, hey, no, I'm kidding. I don't know. I don't know Hollywood anymore. You know, I lived in Los Angeles for 63 years. And it wasn't only 4 years ago, we moved here from Los Angeles, my hometown. And we've been living in Cleveland, Tennessee, which is a wonderful place. And I would never move back, because I'm a forest person now. We live in the woods in a little log cabin, our 3-story log cabin with central heating and air conditioning.
Oh, that's
we're
lovely.
very happy. My wife grew up here, and before she moved to Los Angeles and opened Comics Unlimited, and her mother passed away, and her father's old and senile and an old fart, and we decided we were going to come take care of him, so we did. And so it's the 3 of us in the woods with our kitty. I named my kitty Ahsoka. You know where I got it from? I think Rhianna knows.
Oh wait,
Ahsoka.
no. WWE.
Nope. Ahsoka Tano is her name.
Is that from DC, isn't it?
Nope.
Star Wars?
Star Wars, yes. She's in Star Wars. She's a great kitty with big ears, just like, you know, Ahsoka Tano. I love that character. She's in the Clone Wars show by the guy who's producing all these live action shows now, did a lot of the animated shows too. And you can tell that the same people are doing the backgrounds and what's going on in the backgrounds for the live action, because it looks so good, you know, and that what they did in the animated looks so good. But Roseanne, what's her name? I always forget her name. Oh yeah. Here's a picture of our Ahsoka Tano.
Yes.
Oh wow.
And what's her name that plays her? I can never remember her
Rosario
name.
Dawson.
Rosario Dawson, yes. And I know her from a friend of mine who wrote a musical called Rent. Ever heard of the musical Rent?
Oh, is that the one that Tick Tick Boom? They did, was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's Johnny. Johnny wrote that. And, Jonathan Larson was his name.
Yes.
And he died the night before it opened. And it went on to win all kinds of awards and stuff, like the Tony Award and the Nobel Peace Prize and all that stuff. And he didn't get to live to see it, but he wrote a damn good musical. It's basically the opera La Boheme set into a modern New York, tenement housing type thing. So I'm sure you guys get all kinds of theater over there, don't you? I'm sure it'll pass by. I'm sure it'll pass by. Whereabouts are you guys?
So I'm personally in Preston, Lancashire. So our nearest theatre is probably going in Manchester, which is only about half an hour away.
Okay.
I'm in the New Forest, so I think my nearest one is in Bournemouth or Southampton. They're kind of equal distances.
Okay.
So I'm in Handball, Southampton, so we're very close.
Okay.
I think it's the Southampton one, Mayflower Theatre, is the closest one. But there is one in Bournemouth.
Yeah, the Bournemouth Pavilion. I used to perform there way back when, like sorry?
As an actress or a singer?
As an actress. I'm currently training to be an actress and commentator for WWE, but I did pantomimes when I was 13 and 14, so about 6 years ago now. And
so it's in your blood, huh?
It is. Once you get that like drive towards something, it's just impossible to stop. And
I was an actor for 20 years in Los Angeles. I acted in stage there a lot, some film, some TV, but I never went anywhere, nothing big. But I met a lot of good people, and it's in my blood too. Like I did the Renaissance Fair every year here in Los Angeles and in San Francisco. So 8 weeks out of the year, I would be doing the Renaissance Fair and speaking like that and like a pirate. And what was I going to say? Darn it. It was out of my brain. I was going to say, which one of you is closest to Christchurch?
I think that's like a 15-minute drive, I think.
Okay. Well, the artist Brian Talbot, who did Sandman, and as a matter of fact, he drew me in one of the episodes, one of the issues of the comic book. He drew me in because that's what he does. He takes pictures of everybody he knows and he draws them into his comics. So, but Brian Talbot, he's a nice guy. If you happen to run into him, he's in Christchurch.
Oh, hopefully I do, because I go to Christchurch every now and then, mainly for hospital appointments, unfortunately. But Christchurch is lovely, and I guess we've been talking a lot about the past, so let's talk a little bit about the future. So, do you have any current and upcoming projects that you can share with us, please?
I don't. I'm retired, unfortunately. But it's interesting that you asked me if I would write something if offered again. All the people that I worked with left. Warner Brothers, Scholastic, Bongo doesn't exist at all. So I never hear from any of the people anymore because the editors went off and they decided they wanted to be writers too. So they went off. But any new editor that comes into any new job usually gathers around him people they know, and they don't know. A lot of old people actually complain about that in the entertainment business because they want young ideas, not old guys' ideas. So I guess, I don't know. I tried for a while to get back into Scholastic because I did a lot of things besides Scooby for Scholastic. But nobody wanted me for anything because they all had their own people. Yeah. I would think, I know they keep vast libraries of old books, and I would think that someday somebody's going to go in and read some of my books and say, hey, this guy's pretty good. Let's ask him to see what he's doing. And then maybe I might, but they wouldn't be able to get a hold of me. I'm not even in town anymore. They might if they tried hard enough in this day of computer. Yeah, Facebook. I'm there. I'm a rabid Republican. I'm there complaining about the president almost every day with just about everybody else that has to buy gasoline.
So where would be the best place for people to keep up with like Comics Unlimited and things like that?
It's comics at comicsunlimited.com.
That's my email address.
That's the email address. What's the experience?
Well, no, they would be Facebook or Comics Unlimited.
Okay, so you can go on Facebook or Comics Unlimited website, and it'll hook you up. You can also go on what's it called? the end thing. It's not Netflix. It's
I have no idea what you're talking about.
yeah, I know. This thing. Hold
No,
on.
the easiest thing is on Facebook.
But if you go on to
And if you go to Comics Unlimited.
YouTube. That's what I was trying to think of. YouTube. Go on YouTube and type in Comics Unlimited, The Experience, and the show is called Friday Night Live, and it'll show all the different back stories. Nancy's quite fun, and she runs a pretty tight ship, and they offer up a bunch of comics, and if you make a request, she'll look in her vast back issue bin and get it for you, or try to get it for you. So
wow, that's incredible. Definitely be sure to leave all those links in the description down below. I mean, I'll say this now. Maybe prepared to have a lot of orders like to be sent to the UK, because I'm gonna go
I'm
crazy.
with you there.
I'm gonna place some orders. I also have one more question.
okay.
Were there any stories and ideas that you never got a chance to write?
There was that script that you kept pitching and we never did. And
Yes.
VeggieTales, right?
Okay, there was a script that I wrote and actually had drawn called Tom's Revenge, and I couldn't get it published, but the art was great. I don't even know who has the art now, but it was about Tom Turkey coming to life in the oven with a big knife going around killing everybody in the family. It was originally for Chaos Comics, but that never got published. I also wanted to do Flash Gordon comics, but I don't know whatever happened with that. It must have died.
It was the veggie one I was talking about.
VeggieTales, yes.
No, it wasn't VeggieTales. It was a vegetable.
Oh,
story,
yeah, that's right. I did a vegetable story with my friend Walter in Argentina, and he drew it all. It turned out pretty good, but we couldn't get anybody to buy it.
And then VeggieTales came out.
And then VeggieTales came out. You familiar with VeggieTales? I don't know if you have it over there. It's a ultra-right Christian publisher. So, but it's fun enough. It was okay.
But I mean, so you could do your story.
Yeah, but it would they would have thought we were copying them, I think. But they did ask me to write one of their stories about
That's true.
Captain Carrot. He's a superhero. He's a carrot. It's not the same as the other one though.
Was there broccoli?
Huh?
Was there broccoli as well?
I don't know.
Because
yeah,
there's a broccoli.
Yeah,
there is a broccoli. Okay.
Yeah, because in Daddy Daycare they reference that exact.
I haven't seen that yet. That's Kevin Hart, or is it?
No, Daddy Daycare is Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy. Okay, yeah, I've seen it. I just haven't watched it. I've seen it on my.
I've always wondered with the carrot and broccoli scene when Tyler Love thinking, why did they do that route? Like, until you said Captain Carrot, and I was thinking,
no,
that's
Captain
like
the DC character.
Oh, Captain Carrot's a DC character. Colonel Corn.
Yeah, Colonel Corn.
See, my mind. Boom.
They have it in. If you watch Daddy Daycare, they have that exact scene of trying to sell vegetables to kids as cereal, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So they end up doing a daycare center, but they're men instead of being a woman's one.
But
funny. It's actually really funny.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
But
amazing. Pretty much everything that I wanted to do, I did. I didn't feel bad at the end, just saying, okay, I'm retired. But now I find I didn't think I could write anymore, just legally, because you go on Social Security and. But you can write up to a certain amount dollar-wise, and they deduct it or they do whatever at tax time. But I didn't think I was able. So I think if somebody were to come along and ask me to do something, I think I might be inclined to say yes, because I have my wife to help me, sort of. She's giving me that look.
That's not true.
She said she'll help me.
Oh, well, that's amazing. So fingers crossed that we do get to see more from you in the future. And I guess, to wrap things up, just thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show and for all the time that you've given us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to not only hear about your stories in, the industry and with writing, but just like a tour of all the collectibles as well. It's just so amazing to see what you're doing. And it's an absolute honor to be able to speak with you.
Thank you. One thing I didn't mention, we go to a lovely church here, and we both join the choir. So I still get to perform in a way every Sunday. But thank you. You guys seem like a lovely crew. Much luck to you, and we'll be looking forward to your orders.
Oh yeah,
whatever you want, we'll look for it.
Thank you so much. There'll be a few, and I guess thank you so much to everyone for listening to this today. We hope that you did enjoy. Of course, you can find all of the links to Comics Unlimited in the description down below. Make sure to get ordering now. And of course, special, guest host. We've got Mark Marsh here today. All of his YouTube links and stuff will be in the description down below, along with all of Rhianna's social links as well. So if you do want to see this and so much more, then please like, comment, and subscribe to JayBee and Millie, and we'll see you next time.